One thing I say too, man, and I know like most boxing fans are gonna be probably upset, especially if you're a heavyweight boxer. Thing about me, man, is I'm not really a heavyweight boxing fan like that, you know. And I think that was another thing that was kind of disappointing in this fight was the lack of skills that were displayed on behalf of both fighters. Now, heavyweights typically aren't known for being very skillful because they have a lot of power to kind of compensate for the lack of skill. But I mean, coming from a pure skill perspective, I think this fight was also kind of disappointing in that aspect as well because you literally had two dudes repeatedly throwing telegraphed 1-2s, you know what I'm saying, over and over and over again. And I mean, if you're a purist like me, you really appreciate the the sweet science of boxing. You know what I'm saying? You like to see the head movement. You like to see the counter punching. You like to see, the lateral movement. You like to see the angles. You like to see the sweet science of it. And I think in this fight, we really didn't get that. We really didn't get the sweet science. And that's on behalf of both fighters. It was more like a street fight, man. As far as what Wilder Fury's 3 actually ended up being, it ended up just being a street fight and less of a boxing match. I mean, honestly, you'd be hard pressed to even call this a boxing match, considering the lack of skills that were displayed during this fight. So I don't know, man. I'm not. I mean, on one hand, I love the fight. You know what I'm saying? I love that the fights were going down. I love that it was back and forth. I love that it was a war. But on the other hand, I kind of hate the idea of watching two dudes just kind of like just swing just wildly through the air and land on each other without no real show of defense, no real show of any kind of calculated offense, just kind of like a street fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if any of you dudes ever watched those bum fights. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got different volumes of the bum fights. If you don't know what bum fights are, go on YouTube and Google bum fights. They got different volumes. I think volume 1 through like 35. And literally with the bum fights, you literally see these homeless people and they just throwing hands, wildly throughout the air and just swinging wildly and missing and hitting each other. And then, somebody hits the other person and then they get knocked out, and one goes to sleep. That's kind of how I feel about heavyweights at this point. That's how I feel about this Wilder Fury trilogy, kind of like watching a bum fight. I'm not a huge heavyweight boxing fan, and I think that even though like I went into this fight kind of like knowing that it wasn't going to be a high level of skill displayed, it was still a little disappointing to see just how little of skills we actually got to see during this fight. Despite and again, it was a great fight. I mean, them dudes was putting in work. We was getting them dudes were putting their heart on the line. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, the bums put their heart on the line too. One person gets knocked out, and and that's how that goes. So I mean, that's kind of how I was looking at it. That was a little disappointing for me, man. How y'all feel about that, man? How y'all feel about the lack of skills displayed in this whole Wilder Fury 3 saga? You know what I mean? Because the thing about this for me too is, a lot of people going into this fight, they were saying things like, oh, well, skills pay the bills when it comes to Tyson Fury. Skills pay the bills. Skills pay the bills. That was like a regular thing that we were hearing over and over, like a broken record from different people. And it's like, okay, Tyson Fury has some skills, but based on what we saw in that third fight, based on what we see from heavyweights in general, it's like, I mean, can we really say skills pay the bills for most of these heavyweights? There are probably some that we can make that argument for, that we can say skills pay the bills, but for the most part, with these heavyweights, man, they throw these telegraphed 1-2s and in hopes of knocking somebody out, and it's like, it's like, all right, I mean, knockouts are cool, but all right, you know what I'm saying? Where's the boxing? You know, where's the sweet science? Where's the skills? Where's the technical ability? Where are these things? You know, where's the blazing speed? We didn't get none of that. You know, we didn't get none of that in this fight, man. But you know, again, two warriors going out there putting it out on the line. Still a legendary fight. You know what I'm saying? Still a legendary fight. I think the other thing too, the other distinction that we got to make in regards to Wilder and Fury is the fact that because of both having a severe lack of skills, and I know it's gonna be people out there that ain't gonna agree with me. All right, I know that I'm not gonna agree with everything that I'm saying, and I don't expect you to. But for me, on my behalf, man, I feel like their skills are really comparable, man. I feel like it's real comparable as far as their skill set. G-Paul could say Fury had more skills at the end. He did set his knockout as where Wilder got right hand happy. He did get right hand happy, but they were both right hand happy, man. They were both right hand happy. Fury was throwing a whole bunch of 1-2s and Wilder was throwing a bunch of 1-2s, man. I didn't really see Fury setting up no right hands. I did see Fury show a little bit more head movement. He was able to get in and out of the way a little bit more of some of Wilder's right hands, and he was slipping them. So I could tell that he spent a lot of the training camp, or he spent a lot of time just slipping the right hand, you know, and avoiding the right hand. You know, he definitely spent a lot of time doing that, and it worked to his advantage. You know what I'm saying? Because even though he got caught with that right hand several times, he didn't get caught with it as much as he could have gotten caught with it, you know. So I mean, to Fury's credit, he did that right. But as far as like showing a high level of boxing ability, as far as being able to circle the ring and use lateral movement, all right, and counter punch, I didn't see a whole lot of that. Man, from Tyson Fury. So I'm not really sure what skills paid the bills here in this case, you know. And I'm gonna say this, and I don't agree with me, but I'm gonna say it honestly. This fight wasn't one that's on by skills at all, you know, because if you look at the third fight and you look at the fact that in the first two rounds, Wilder kind of dominated the first two rounds, and the game plan was working until Fury got away from the game plan. If you're talking about boxing, Wilder was outboxing Fury. So at what point did the skills actually pay the bills in the first two rounds? It wasn't until the third round where Wilder hurt Fury and then punched himself out with his lack of conditioning, that Fury was able to actually hurt Wilder and put him down. That's how the fight actually went to me. You know, he got caught with a punch in the third round. He got hurt, but really he got hurt because he had punched himself out. He hurt Fury in the third round, if you guys recall correctly. He hurt Fury in the third round, and then he tried to finish Fury. He got happy and tried to finish Fury in the third round. Okay, and then when he couldn't finish Fury, you know, Fury ended up catching him while he was tired, okay, and then hurting him and putting him down in the third round. That's what ended up happening. You know, Rafael Vasquez says Wilder finally meets someone that could take a right hand and you're one trick pony. You don't have a plan B. Absolutely, but the thing is he completely got away from the game plan. Like, the game plan clearly was to throw punches to the body, you know, move from the body to the head, mix it up, make Tyson Fury guess where the right hand was going, whether it was going to go to the body. You saw those straight right hands going to the body. So he was going to make Fury guess about where those straight right hands were going. Okay. And while he was guessing to the body, it was supposed to be going up top to the head. So that game plan was highly effective because in those cases, you can't guard both your head and your body effectively. You got to pick one, you know? So at a certain point, Tyson Fury had to guess which one Wilder was going with. But once Wilder got away from that and Fury was able to correctly identify, okay, now all the right hands are coming to my head, so all I have to do is move my head and get out of the way of the right hand. It made the fight very easy for Tyson Fury, you know, and at that point he was able to take over the fight, you know. But of course that didn't happen until later on, you know, maybe like the 5th or 6th round, after Wilder had completely exhausted himself and was completely dazed and wobbled and didn't really have much fight in him, you know what I'm saying, in order to continue to fight, You know what I mean? But again, when it comes to skills pay the bills, I don't really, when people say that, I don't really get that, because I didn't really see a whole lot of skills that was really able to pay a whole lot of bills. I saw one guy that was literally able to outlast the other guy, and correctly be able to avoid a right hand that was telegraphed. But to me, that ain't, like, like G Parker, man. If you knew I was throwing the right hand, you probably be able to get out of the way of the right hand too. You know what I mean? Like, Wilder didn't put much guesswork into when he was throwing the right hand and that he was throwing the right hand. You knew the right hand was coming, and you knew when it was coming, you knew how it was coming, and you knew from what direction it was coming. So it all remained the same after that third round when Wilder got hurt.